FM 100.3 KFAN is just to the west of Erotic City. Copyright the late Prince Rogers Nelson. And here in the neighborhood being the 651 Carpets Plus Studios, the series indeed, per what you just heard from Radio Vox Allen Horton, the Wolves and Nuggets, the series indeed is tied at 2, but truly it has a feel that the sky is falling over here. All right. Now, the series is tied to 2. Mad producer with a Monday morning montage in second to none fashion. The sky is falling is what it feels like, and also was the name of the song. But it's like, Nordo, don't you think when the Nuggets were down 0-2, there was no functioning trippability and minimal from the fan base, and like now we've lost 2 in a row, and the series is 2-2, and it feels like we've been swept into oblivion.
Yeah.
Good morning. What's happening?
Good morning. When you watch the first 2 games and you speak about specifically, let's say game 2, the domination, and even game 1, for most of that game, it felt like Wolves were not losing that one. And it was just every time Jokic and Murray, not Murray through the first 2, but you take that step, Wolves were ahead of it. They weren't doing miraculous things in those first 2 games.
It was just the hustle was 10 of 10.
The hustle was 12 of 10. And so you watch that through 2, and so you speak about it in that vein, and you think about it as we do 9 to noon for the remainder of that week. And it is. You're not walking on water defensively here. You're just doing a lot of the same things that you did throughout the season that made you the best defensive team. And everybody rallied together in game 2 for Rudy.
Like copyright Chris Hockey, you're doing what it takes to make you good.
Exactly. And it's been the exact opposite of that. Both Friday night, watch party at Free House, trying to pump things up, and it was just a disaster from minute one.
And speaking of Free House, I was at the game Friday night, and I was looking at Twitter during timeouts, and I would see some of your tweets from Free House, and for some reason I couldn't stop. And it bugged Larry, Senor Smiley, my son Derek, because for the 9th time I kept going, nor does that free house. He's mighty, just letting it off. Nor does that free house.
And we were singing that until about 8:40, and then Ant settled for a couple of bad triples early on.
Oh!
They were hitting baskets. Murray was like, I'm not going 3 of 18 this game. And Friday, they were off to the races. But again, last night.
Yeah.
In a game of runs, in a series that has now been runs of 2 games there, 2 games here.
Yeah.
The end of first quarter at the buzzer with Jokic through to a 26-4 run midway through the second quarter.
Hey.
And us not making our shots. Our team not getting these stops. And you feel helpless in both of these games as you're watching it. How is this happening? How is this going the way it's going? And it was awful to watch at various times. And then last night, where they packed it in on Friday night, basically in the third quarter, and said, yeah, we don't have it. And you heard Ant after the game, yeah, I didn't have it. I'll have it on Sunday. Mm-hmm. He did. Nobody else did. It was always within reach. Mm-hmm. And you get to that score line, you can look at the half-court shot from Murray to end the first half. You can play those games in moments and such. It was always within reach. But in the end, the team wasn't getting stops.
The champions, the Denver Nuggets, the champions crave a challenge. It was stated low key into the series after watching them against the Los Angeles Lakers, but the champions crave a challenge. All right, and a lot of champions over the annals of sports time, champions being champions, the human nature card winning, kind of off what Matt producer just said about Anthony Edwards. Yeah, I can't explain it. Didn't have it Friday, but I'll have it Sunday, and he had it Sunday. Human nature gets to win. And the Nuggets, 9 to noon has learned, won it all last year, slept through the Lakers series and the first 2 games against the Howl. But now it's all business, baby. It's all business. They have the Timberwolves discombobulated, too reliant on Anthony Edwards, and losing the little things battles. This is FILA, fairness in little things. If you're going to praise a team, specifically in the Phoenix series, but a lot in the first two games for winning the, quote, little things, end quote. Well, the other side of the story matters too. The little things like diving around and winning loose ball battles and 50-50 battles for rebounds. The Wolves have to play out of body to beat them. And that's why so many were surprised during the first two, because nobody had seen what they were doing. Little things including tipping balls, closing fast on threes, and just so much more. I mean, it seems like it was a decade ago, but let's hearken just back to game 2 and the little things. Do we remember? Alas, the Minnesota Timberwolves forced the champions into 4 shot clock violations.
I always love that one.
4 times the freaking champions were so locked down, they couldn't get a shot before the 24 buzzer sounded.
I always love that one.
Now they're laying down 8-0 runs the final 20 seconds of halves, and now Jamal Murray is hitting from the clouds. It's almost like he rehabilitated his calf in a dispensary.
I always love that one.
And it's just incapable of feeling pain. And worst of all, their worst shooter of their starters, Aaron Gordon, is going 11 of 12 yesterday and is 5 of 6 from 3 the last 2. He's a 30% guy from 3-point range and has been prone to shooting air balls and has been prone to shooting basketballs off the sides of backboards across the Great Divide. Now, all of a sudden, with Reggie Miller in the building last night, likewise for Jamal Crawford, but specifically Reggie, now all of a sudden Aaron Gordon's like Reggie Miller, Steve Kerr reincarnate. And good morning.
Good morning. And they're hitting corner threes. The Wolves are not hitting corner threes.
Yeah.
So whether it's Gordon there, how about, is it Justin Holiday, right?
Yeah.
Justin Holiday off the bench.
One of the 19 holidays in the NBA.
So into the series, it's look at our bench, look at their bench. And in all honesty, our bench should be on a nightly basis always better than what you're getting. But whether it's Holiday, who I think is like 10 of 15 from deep in this series right now, last couple of games, he's just put coffin nails in these things with these corner threes. Gordon doing what he's doing. Christian Brown, they need somebody off the bench to show a pulse. Christian Brown hitting from distance. Their bench has been better than ours. Kyle Anderson, I don't even know how long he was on the court last night, maybe 6-7 minutes.
6 minutes.
He offered absolutely nothing. He offered absolutely nothing but goose eggs, a minus 18 in those 6 minutes, and all he mustered was a foul and a missed 7-foot shot.
It's those who... Well, just forget it. Basketball, hockey, or whatever. It's virtually impossible to play 6 minutes, and while you're on the court, your team is minus 18 on the scoreboard. I mean, that's unbelievable that can transpire. Now, you mentioned the bench. I'm glad you brought that up. The howl. Yeah, we still howl. Yeah, we still howl. I mean, it feels like we're down 3 3/4 to 0, but it's 2-2, and a game 5 tomorrow evening. KFAN, Alan Horton and Jim Peterson from the Mile Get High City with a 9 o'clock pregame and probably a 9:30 tip tap, which actually would be 9:45 is what they'll sell, but then it'll be like 9:57, and old people get tired. You mentioned the bench. The Minnesota Timberwolves bench in the second half of last night's game provided 2 points. Oh my God. The Minnesota Timberwolves bench, which was an A topic v. the Suns, and an A topic v. the Nugs in the first 2 games, 2 points second half. Oh my God. How about this, man? I mean, you mentioned the ends of the quarters. And you know, some of the quirky things that have happened, you know, as part of the domination over over the last couple of games with the champions doing what the champions, I guess, do because they crave a challenge. I'm surprised they didn't get down 0-3 and try to become the first team in the history of the NBA to roll back and win a series down 3-0. But they crave a challenge. They're a push button bit. And they're pushing the button, and the beast is ignited, and we've seen it. We've been on the wrong side of it, but we still can win the series. It's 2-2. Third quarters, man. Third quarters. I don't know if you or anybody else has like had this work on your last nerve, or if you followed it the last couple. It's so telling. It's not third quarters. It's through 3 quarters. All right.
Okay.
Through 3 quarters of games 1 and 2. All right. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the vaunted defense held the champions to 71 points through 3 and 60 through 3 in game 2. Now, games 3 and 4, the Denver Nuggets have mustered 93 and 90 points through 3 quarters. 93 and 90. I mean, it takes the Jordan Poole-led Washington Wizards a week to score 93 points through 3 quarters. Those mugs get it in 2 games, 93 and 90. Major shift to the scenarios and the occurrences of this supernatural semifinal series between us and the champions.
One thing I'm interested in, and I don't know, I got a couple of audio bits that I'll sprinkle in later in the show as we continue this conversation. One of them being from Chris Finch. I'm curious, in both those games that you're talking about, again, massive end of first quarter, bleeding into second quarter runs for the Nuggets. Last night, you start the second quarter without Cat, Anthony Edwards, or Rudy Gobert on the court.
Yeah.
And there's where Kyle Anderson becomes a minus 13 in the midst of that 26-4 run. That's where Nickeil Alexander, I think, was a minus 20 last night. That's where we're missing the corner threes. That's where they're absolutely slicing and dicing us. A popular, and it should be because it's super glaring, the statistic that Johnny K put out last night, John Krasinski of The Athletic, that the 45 minutes in which Anthony Edwards was on the court, the team was a +5. The 2 minutes and 40 seconds he was off the court, team was a minus 13, that sort of thing.
Wow.
The glaring, how much that matters in the context of an 8-point loss. That's the second quarter. That's the run. What went into the decision to start the second quarter as you felt that tide turning? Jokic at the buzzer with the flip in. What was the decision there to essentially allow the landslide to continue with no Cat, Ant, or Rudy on? And Nas did his thing last night early on specifically, but that wasn't enough. And so in those moments, like trying to dissect a playoff game, both of these awful losses at Target Center have all included end of first quarter into second quarter runs by the Nuggets. Yeah. And then we're spending the rest of the game chasing. And in both cases, not being able to catch up.
All right, let's fade the music and fire up 9 to noon. Welcome. Those of you listening at FM 100.3, KFAN, or those of you listening on the vast and ever-expanding iHeartRadio app. The talkback feature, very, very much in play today. We believe, courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com, what's on deck 9 to noon will include former Minnesota Vikings tight end Kyle Rudolph, who is a big Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Rudy was in attendance for Game 3. Of course, we got blown out. And Kyle not only knows Karl Anthony Towns or supports Karl Anthony Towns and all that is Kentucky Wildcats basketball, but texting with Kyle over the weekend, he has some poignant takes and or talkers or opinions for 9 to noon today about the state of the howl. So that's going to take place probably in the neighborhood of 9:35. Then after that, we can play back some of those talkbacks. The best way to file a report, offer up a 30-second opinion via the talkback feature would be via the free iHeartRadio app. Are there any particulars that we need to share, Matt Producer?
I think you just hit that microphone and give us up to your best 30 seconds. It's got to be up to, so don't get to your best thought 25 seconds in.
Yeah.
And I got them right in front of my face as they start to pile in, and I'll be playing them throughout the show. Absolutely.
Then J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner took place with other rookies in rookie camp at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center Friday and Saturday. Yours truly in attendance Friday. We will hear from JJ and Dallas via their press conferences, then offer up some opinions after that. And Kevin Lynch of Bally Sports North, a frequent contributor in the Love Covenant. Kevin Lynch will analyze the state of the howl in studio at about 11 o'clock. And good morning. This is 9 to noon. Now, Nordo said something last week. And was quite adamant about it.
Wolves in 4? Wolves in 4?
No, it was Wolves 16-0 if the officiating the rest of the playoffs was the way it was game 2. And I absolutely wholeheartedly agreed with you. I mean, Mark Davis, man, what you doing, man? I mean, can we get Mark Davis game 5?
Please.
Can we get Mark Davis and, the one who... Like, things got so out of control. You got coaches running on courts, and you got slow-mo and doing... I mean, can we get Mark Davis and his staff for Game 5 just to see what happens?
I think the next night, by the way, after Game 2, or maybe it was 2 nights later, I forget how they match up, he did the Pacers-Knicks game that solicited, the 78, 79 calls that Rick Carlisle sent into the league. He was so pissed.
Right. That was, the Miles Turner pick and everything that went with that. But speaking of officiating, I found something interesting over the weekend. Now, the individual, the source, is a professionally speaking, I guess it would be personally speaking, because, that's generally speaking what the opinion is or the imagery of it is when somebody goes to prison. But that's the case for disgraced and shamed former NBA official Tim Donaghy. All right. Now Tim's been out of jail for a little while, and taking a leap without judging, it's just I'm going to take the leap that there was a lot of lying that took place during a certain part of the life of Tim Donaghy when he was fixing NBA games. And sharing with the whales and sharing with groups that were betting on the games, and they were profiting. And so Tim fixed games. All right, longtime NBA referee. He fixed games. He got caught. He went to prison. So it's a consider the source situation. But I'm not saying what I'm about to read ties absolutely into the Timberwolves Nugget series, but I just want you to think about it for a second.
Okay.
And have give everybody something on which to chew. Just so the mind can go spinning as to some things that have developed of late in this little 2-2 bordello heading back to the Mile, Get High City, and good morning. So, former NBA official, I saw this on Twitter, Tim Donaghy, was on 1010 XL. I think that's a Tampa Bay radio station. I think it's something in Florida. So he was on 1010 XL.
Jacksonville.
Thank you very much. And when pressed on some question, because the question wasn't included as part of the context, but the answer was, the disgraced, shameful, habitual liar that Tim Donaghy was, and maybe still is, but he shared this, all right? They used to put us in a room and show us the NBA. They used to put us in a room and show us plays to concentrate on that they didn't want us to miss. It was always for those big market teams and always against mid-market teams. It's not fixed, but they definitely put one team at an advantage. We'd walk out of those pregame meetings and say, the refs, we'd walk out of those pregame meetings and say, oh man, they really want the Lakers to win tonight. If you're getting paid $25,000 for each playoff game, you want the series to extend too.
Oh my gosh, above average at that.
He's disgraced.
Yeah.
He was, maybe still is, a habitual liar. He's shameful. He fixed games and got pegged with a felony. So again, consider the source, but it's like, oh geez. And now these are two mid-market teams. Okay, so we got Denver and the Timberwolves, but just put it in context because NBA officiating this year has been as inconsistent, I think, as anybody ever has seen it.
Yeah.
And some of these games are hard to call, but there's so much inconsistency with it. And 9 to noon in no way is putting the last two losses to the world champions.
Refs could have stayed in the locker room game 3, and the Nuggets were winning the entire time.
But when you have Nikola Jokic under the basket, pushing Jaden McDaniels 5 feet into Carlos Gonzalez and a bunch of the photogs and a bunch of the people sitting by the stanchion, and you got a ref looking right at it, and then the ref swallows the whistle.
Oh my gosh,
It harkens to the disgraced, the shamed, the liar, the loser, Tim Donaghy. And we'd walk out of those meetings and say, oh, geez, they really want the Lakers to win tonight. If you're getting paid, well, see, they really want to win part. Okay, whatever. That's I'm going to eliminate that. It's this part that hits me. If you're getting paid $25,000 for each playoff game, you want the series to extend, don't you? Wow!
Yeah, that's nutty. The only thing I'll ask.
Oh, that's nutty.
The only thing I would ask, and I don't know why they do it. Maybe this is part of post Tim Donaghy that this is a part of the bit.
Yeah.
Why not have the same refereeing crew for the entire series? Like, create a consistency within each series. So
yeah,
because I think ultimately that would minimize part of that conversation in terms of Mark Davis game 2. What was it? Tony Brothers game 3.
Yeah.
Scott Foster is a name that many Wolves fans do not speak glowingly of when that name is invoked.
That's an interesting take.
The same refereeing crew for an entire series. Good, bad, ugly. You can get used to that and maybe adjust to it. I don't know. But the fact that refereeing is the leagues, and it's the NFL. The NFL's overcomplication has created a problem with refereeing, making that part of the conversation, but they don't care. If anything, it feels like they lean into it. Refereeing in the NBA, massive part of the conversation. I'm wondering if the league inside the dark rooms, do they really care? Because ultimately we're talking about the sport, we're ingesting the sport, we're obsessed with it, and now as Wolves fans, where for most of this franchise's history, we're wondering where they sit in the lottery. I didn't even know the lottery took place because I'm so locked into this team in the second round. And now we care about the
place already?
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah, congratulations to the Atlanta Hawks, I guess.
What?
Yeah.
The Atlanta Hawks? Wow, crazy. It's with this Donaghy thing. I mean,
I think he's on to something.
With the Wolves, it's like they read the story. It's like they read that story over the weekend where the shamed cheater, former ref Tim Donaghy, said the league makes it abundantly clear where a series stands, and he's like, why wouldn't they want the series to extend? It's $25,000 a game for the refs. Wow.
And how much
I always love that
league?
one.
Right. And advertising, but we can't let our minds go that way, because if we do, then we have become contaminated.
Well, let's do the league a favor, win game 5, and then they can enjoy the ratings of at least a game 6. Let's do that.
Thank you, Timber Tech. I'm Paul Allen. The producer is Eric Nordquist. This is Wine to Noon, your cash giveaway leader.
I apologize. I do not have cash keywords in front of me. And so stay tuned. Next segment, if we are indeed doing the cash contest, I will have a keyword for you around the corner. It's 9 to noon on the Fan. The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com and use the keyword green. You might win $1,000 just by using the keyword green at KFAN.com.
Excuse me while I whip this house.
Big boy's back. Here comes Kyle Rudolph, former great Vikings tight end by day, devotee of the howl by night. Big boy attended Game 3 and watched Game 4 and joins us now from his Florida compound. Kyle, it's Paul Allen. Thanks for the time. What's up, my brother?
Not much, PA. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Great seeing you from afar on Friday at the Timberwolves game. And you got the crowd all jacked up Friday night when they put you on the big screen. You were super into the game, man, but then they played it and things didn't go well. And likewise for last night. Good morning. And where do we go from here with your favorite basketball team?
Well, thankfully, we're going back to Denver, where we had some success in Game 1 and Game 2. Game 3 was unfortunate. You could see it early on in the game. I think it was 12-12 at one point in the first quarter. They didn't miss. We couldn't make a shot. The game was officiated as such that they weren't going to let us just beat them up like we did in Game 2. And it was like one of those things as the game went on, you could see our frustration just building. Again, sequence right before half, we missed 3 straight threes, wide open, clean looks that we've made all year long.
Yes.
And ultimately go down 14, and it could have been a 5-6 point game there at halftime. And obviously things got out of hand quickly in the second half. Then you watch last night, and, I can go right to the sequence before half. You give up 8 straight points, multiple turnovers. And quite honestly, we can't put ourselves in a hole against them the way they're playing right now, because we can't get enough stops to come back. We've been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA all year. We have 4-time defensive player of the year in the game, and, we can't stop anybody. So, we have to stop turning the basketball over and giving them these double-digit leads that, ultimately last night, Ant said it after his game on Friday night, and, it's fun to watch greatness. You see him just casually say, that was my bad. I'll be ready Sunday. And boy, was he ready. For him to come out and play the way he did last night was fun to watch. We need the supporting cast to be there as well. And I think that's been the difference. Denver's supporting cast stunk in Game 1 and Game 2. Our supporting cast, we didn't play well in Game 3 and Game 4. So good news is we're going back to Denver. It's a 3-game series. You just hope that this young team is still as confident as they were during Game 1 and Game 2.
That was fantastic.
Amen, brother!
I know you did some Fox radio work during the NFL season. I mean, what's next year, big boy? Are you auditioning for like NBA radio or NBA TV or something? I mean, you broke that sucker down, and when you say we can't get stops, Timberwolves can't get stops. Just think about saying that after the stops they got against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and games 1 and 2 of this series, and Game 2. You have all of the right people, the Leglers, the Stephen A. Smiths, the Kendrick Perkins, the J.J. Redicks. You have all the right people saying that may have been the greatest defensive performance in the history of NBA postseason play. And now Big Boy saying we can't get stops. How does that happen?
Well, I think it's a couple things. When you just watch Game 1 and Game 2 and you see how frustrated we got, I talked about the supporting cast for Denver not playing well in Game 1 and Game 2. And then you watch Game 3, Game 4, Jamal Murray, I love my Kentucky guys, and, he was fun to watch when he was at Kentucky. It's been a ton of fun to see the way he's developed throughout the course of his career. It has not been fun to watch what he's done to us in Game 3 and Game 4. The guy has just been lights out since the whole incident. Certainly we can talk about whether he should have even been playing in Game 3. That's neither here nor there. But when I talk about getting stops, it's hard enough to get stops when Jamal Murray is making step back threes and fadeaways and contested jump shots. And Aaron Gordon is basically perfect from the field. So, when you're trying to contain the league MVP and the 3-time MVP, and yet the guys around him are also getting, wide open looks, knocking him down, creating their own shot and not missing like Jamal Murray the last 2 games, it makes it really difficult to then get those stops. But I do think when, watching last night's game on TV, you can see a little more than watching it in person. The defense is still there. Like when we get back and things slow down and we get set up and our guys, navigate the pick and roll appropriately. And, you can see when that ball just starts whipping around. I think there was one instance where Brown knocked down a 3 late in the game. They passed up 3 open looks and we're just chasing the ball all the way around and ultimately got a dagger wide open 3 towards the end. So I think the opportunity's there. It's funny that you talk about the performance we had in game 2 with our defensive player of the year, not even in the game,
right.
Didn't make the trip. And, at times you see it when the defensive player of the year, in my opinion, right now is losing to the MVP. The MVP is outplaying the defensive player of the year. And, everybody always says defense wins championships. Well, it's like if we can't get stops, ultimately, is it worth having the defensive player of the year in the game if it's going to change things for us offensively? So then you go over to the offensive side of the floor where, again, I can't sing Ant's praises enough.
Yeah.
It is so fun watching him get the ball, get downhill. I mean, he reminds me of Adrian and Percy Harvin, putting his foot in the ground and getting north and south when he has the ball at the top of the key. And it's really hard for him to do that when we have a 7'1" guy standing in front of the rim. So it's if we're not going to get the defensive player of the year on the defensive side, do we go with Cat and Nas on the offensive side so that way we can at least keep up with the scoring side? So I think it just gets hard. We saw it a little bit last night. They don't really guard Rudy and Jaden. And yes, we need both of them on the defensive end if we're getting the stops on the defensive end. So, I'm excited for game 5. I can't wait to see the adjustments that we make and how we go to Denver.
Well, think about that. Kyle Rudolph, former Vikings great tight end by day, devotee of the Timberwolves by night. He's all over this series, but at the Florida compound, with where you live in Florida. I mean, how about this on Tuesday, man? A 10:45 p.m. start for Big Boy for that game. Are you kidding me with that?
It's I don't know if I'm going to watch it live. I might be getting up early on Wednesday morning and watching the replay.
Come on, man.
10:45 start. Jordan and I were watching the game last night, and she's like, "Did they just say 10:45?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what happens when you're playing the Western Conference playoffs. You get the Pacific time zone game."
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, with Kyle Rudolph, when you mentioned Jamal Murray. All right. I mean, let's hearken to your basketball days, say at Elder High School, back when you wore number 30 and you were All-America in 2008. Have you ever in a game hit a 50-footer at the buzzer of any type like Jamal Murray did last night?
It's funny. I actually, my junior year, we were playing in a meaningless regular season makeup game that got snowed out during the year. And in the GCL, the conference that I played in Cincinnati, there's different divisions, and the Elders, the Mollers, the St. Xavier's, LaSalle, the big all-boys Catholic schools, we play them twice. And then there's 8 other small Catholic schools that you only play once. And that makes up your conference schedule for the year, where we had a weather game that we had to make up with one of the smaller schools in Dayton. And we were down 3. It was actually the end of the game, not the end of the half. And I launched a 3 from just across half court, made it, sent the game to overtime. Well, in overtime, our starting point guard, who was a great player for us, he gets hurt. And ultimately, we lose. He didn't play the rest of the year. We lose in the state regional final game. And it's we would always joke to this point. That was 2007. So, 17 years ago, we joked that that buzzer beater that had no business going in a makeup game ended up costing a state championship. So, we'll see. Maybe the Nuggets will have similar luck and, we can go on and win this series.
So you just a couple here to close with Kyle Rudolph. You are a Kentucky cat. I mean, you love the Kentucky Wildcats and subsequently, you support and follow Karl Anthony Towns. And you were seen sporting a Fresh Towns jersey Friday night at that game. That was a nice jersey. And my man had his problems last night. All right, human nature gets to win too, but my man had his problems last night, especially in the first half. What would you like, or first quarter? What would you like to see from Karl Anthony Towns moving forward?
I would just love to see Cat going back to, what he does. For us on Friday, you watch the guy and, I think he took 7 shots in the game. He made 4 threes. Obviously Friday got out of hand relatively quickly there right before half and then into the second half. But, just assert yourself. You're one of the best scoring bigs in basketball. I think he's the most efficient 3-point shooter in the playoffs right now. And to me, it kind of goes back to, I'm curious what they decide to do. Obviously, when Rudy's on the floor, Karl loves to play the 4. He doesn't have to play the 5 spot. And, in my opinion, I would love to see a lineup in which he's in the 5 spot. I watched the game on Friday, and I feel like the Joker literally could have bought real estate in the middle of the lane on defense. Like, first of all, I'm like, we have defense at 3 seconds in the NBA for a reason. Can we please get this guy out of the lane? But then second of all, it's when he's guarding Rudy, you can do that. You can just stand right there and clog everything up. Well, if his assignment's Karl and he's got to cover Karl, you can't just camp out in the lane. And that opens up things for these athletic wing players. Again, going back to Ant, Adrian Peterson, Percy Harvin getting downhill. I would love to see where our offense, again, Ant can't score every trip down the court. Although as a fan, when I watch the game, I almost get frustrated when anyone else touches the ball because I'm like, just let this guy do it. No one on that team can stop him. But I think there's a world in which Ant needs to have the ball in the middle of the floor every possession, thus, orchestrating threes for Karl, getting Jaden involved. He sings Jaden praises all the time. Every press conference he gets in, he's talking about him defensively and that he doesn't get enough credit. He's a big, long, athletic guy, and when you have Ant that can get in the lane and create, I think those are the shots that we want to see from Jaden, as opposed to when he just kind of gets the ball on the wing and nobody guards him. It's like out of rhythm, out of sync. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot on the offensive side of the ball.
My man, you're an elite basketball mind, and I appreciate the time. Let's stay in touch, okay?
Absolutely. Always good to talk to you, PA. We got to go out and get a big one in Game 5 so we can have that place rocking to close it out in Game 6.
Yes, sir. And I won't text you Tuesday evening. Perchance you're like, you wake up and you see a text and you're trying to watch it the next morning. So we'll chat on Wednesday, okay? See you, bud.
Sounds good. Thanks, PA.
Kyle Rudolph, big boy's back. And he mentioned Anthony Edwards and the supporting cast, or with all due respect, the lack thereof last evening. Anthony Edwards, unstoppable last evening, shot 64% and was 5 of 8 from 3. The rest of the squad shot 40% and 30% from 3 and 57% from the line.
It's a series. I mean, we won 2 games, but we didn't think it was going to be easy. I mean, this is, like I always say, these are the defenders. I said it after Game 2. They're not going to lay down. They're going to punch, and we're going to punch back. And they beat us up tonight. The last 2 nights, they beat us up in the fight. And that's okay. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back, figure it out next game, and we'll be ready again.
You know, PA, I'm not ready to write this one off as another Minnesota sports failure as per usual. We went into Denver and punched them in the mouth twice. They came back to Minneapolis and took everything we've ever wanted. Let's reset. It's unsustainable, them shooting 60% as a team. Let's lock in on Jokic, make him facilitate to the other guys, and see if they can prove it, because I like our chances. Let's go, Wolves. And Ant, we trust, baby.
I like your talk back.
Amen, brother.
And I like the approach taken by Anthony Edwards there too, with the old street fight analogy. They did get punched in the metaphorical face a couple of games, but so did Denver. And Denver's the champion. And Denver can be bored and can be looking for a challenge. And Denver can be of the push button variety, which it is. But nevertheless, those were metaphorical uppercuts. And Mama said knock them out. And they got knocked out twice. And we got knocked out twice. And then now, tomorrow on KFAN, 9 o'clock for the pregame, 9:30 for the tip-tap, game number 5. And with off that talk back, you know, they're Friday night, it was early fourth quarter and we're getting buried. But all of a sudden, it's McDaniels is up on somebody and Alexander Walker's up on somebody and the switches are great and they tipped a pass. Now the shot clock's running down and somebody threw up a foolish 3 and it was no good. All right, well, we're still going to lose the game because we're too far back. But then I'm like, wow, hey, there it is. There is that 85 Bears defense that caused everybody after game 2 to say, maybe the greatest defensive performance in the history of NBA postseason play. Last night, there was a stretch in the first half when the Nuggets were shooting in front of their bench. The elite defense on Jokic, which involved 3 players, started with Stifle, then somebody else, then somebody else. They just kept flowing the bodies to him. Elite defense on Joker led to an awful Reggie Jackson shot late in the shot clock. From the left of the basket, as you look at it, it hit the side of the backboard. Here come the Timberwolves surging down the court to the other side, and Naz Reid hits a 3.
Yeah.
That right there, remember it?
Felt like game 2.
Well, it felt like us. That's us. That's like swarming defense, defense with intent, and obviously a plan, but defense with intent, force a bad shot, howl, go the other way, Naz for 3, bam, and that's just been lacking so much the last 2 games, those little baby exchanges.
Yeah, but then I think that's right around the time it was 22-15. You get the 7-point lead goes away, and they're going the other way. The runs that are taking place in those moments. Game 3, you didn't even have that. And I've emphasized it because Ant talked about it and about himself after game 3. Didn't have it. I'm going to have it on Sunday. Well, they were settling for bad shots, easy shots, not getting to the paint in game 3 at all, where they had 52 points in the paint in game 2. So now early last night, you're seeing Ant. What does he do? He's forcing the action to the basket, taking it himself, making those hoops count. And then Naz hits that 3. And then it's like, okay, well, we might need 20 out of Naz tonight because Cat starts the game 0 for 7, and that's ugly. But once you turn to 22-15, the tidal wave came, and it was ugly. Here's another talkback from the free iHeartRadio app.
The game changer last night was the end of the first half where we had cut it to 7, and then all of a sudden, within 30 seconds, it balloons to 15. We really got to focus on the ends of quarters, and if we do that, we're going to be fine. Just lock down defense, and let's go. Game 5, Minnesota, we're winning.
I still can't believe what we saw at the end of the half.
That's another winner.
Faith and goal.
That's another winner via the talkback operation.
Amen, brother!
Because 7 is doable. Shoot, 10 is doable. But 8 points in 20 seconds. 8 points in 20 seconds to take that sucker to 15 with Jamal Murray tagging 1 from 50. I agree with that. I'm not gonna be a prophet for profit and feel like, if they're down 7, 8, or 9, they absolutely would win, but it plays into it. But that part doesn't play into sustainability. Ends of quarters and what Denver did through 3 quarters these last 2 games, where we're giving up 93 and 90 points for 3 quarters with 85, 2,000 Ravens All right, 3-2. 85 Bears, 2,000 Ravens. Defense is like we got T.R. Dunn, Fat Lever, and Bruce Bowen manning the perimeter for us through the first two games, but still way too many points through three. Is that sustainable for Denver? I think that's a fair question to ask. But what should not be sustainable is Aaron Gordon. Honestly, you're supposed to be able to leave him open from three, and his functioning clankability will shoot his team into a problem.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. I mean, my man was, 11 for 12 last night? He's a 30% three-point guy, and he's channeling his inner Jim and John Paxson and downtown Freddie Brown with a side of Kevin Greavy, and he's not missing from three, and it sucks.
Yeah, he's 8 of 11 in the last 3 games from three. And it was only 2 of 2 last night, but I was playing it during the montage, these little mid-range turnaround bits that he was just absolutely killing us with last night.
Some tough shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you.
But see, just off that, okay, Jamal Murray has hit tough shots all of his life.
Yeah.
That's what he does. And the calf being rehabilitated in a dispensary clearly has healed itself, if only for 2 games. But Jamal Murray has done that all of his life. Aaron Gordon hasn't. Aaron Gordon does not fade away like Elvin Hayes back in his Houston Cougar days from 15 to 18 and hit every single one. He just doesn't. That's not going to sustain.
Let me ask you, how much, because we've been so focused on the defense, and you mentioned, and rightly so, the glaring look between the first 2 and the most recent 2 in terms of points allowed through the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And there is a stark contrast. How much can we talk about the offense in this regard, though? I mean, Ant needs help.
Yep.
Rudy offensively has done nothing and impacted the game 0 since returning last Friday.
And now he's missing free throws.
Correct. And what was he doing? He was draining all of them in the Sun series. So how much of this, as we say at some point, the Nuggets get an opportunity to play defense too, that they do have the MVP, that the clutch cat is not going to go 3 of 18 every game. And so at some point, cool that we have the best defense in the NBA. Well, actually, we should be able to score some points once in a while. Throughout the season, PA, it was a conversation where at some point that there was going to be that the offense needed to handle its part of the equation. That the defense, best in the NBA,
swinging it around to the 12 for the straddle.
As good as the defense had been in the NBA throughout the season, that the offense, well, there's some problem. How do we work Cat into this mix?
Yeah.
How are we going to get some of that bench production? That's what this team's missing, is 3-pointers off the bench. We had this conversation through a large balance of the season. And then we started getting it. Now everyone's getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker jerseys, and they got to pay extra because of all those letters on the back. And Nas is doing his thing. 6th man of the year. Monte Morris can make a shot once in a while. Please no more Jordan McLaughlin, though, after Friday night. I got to be honest with that. Love J-Mac. Can't watch those threes any longer. But when you're not getting the offensive side, I mean, 117, we didn't, this isn't Bucks Pacers. They didn't put 140 on us. And we did have our standout stud drop 44 on him and was unstoppable every freaking minute he was in the game. At some point, can we outscore somebody? That's kind of where I'm looking at this now as I think about it more and more, is where was our offense last night?
Right.
Nuggets going to get theirs. Nuggets went on a run.
Right.
Why was it a 26-4 run?
Hey.
Why couldn't we make any shots for about an 8-minute period of the game? That cannot freaking happen. Our defense will not be locked down, hold everybody to 80 every single night. But we got Ant, we got Cat. We've put the pieces around them to produce points. And it's not happening. And that's kind of discouraging in this respect of now what we've seen through the last 2 games.
How'd that feel?
It felt good.
Felt good. Therapeutic Davenport.
Come on.
Oh, nor was that free. House. He's mighty.
We were complaining after game 3.
Oh.
How does Cat only get 7 shots in a game?
I got admonished by a rube last night, and it was sweet. In my super special section 113, where I watched games 3 and 4, and 113's the bomb. I mean, just being in the crowd is the bomb.
Yeah,
right? Being 9 to noon is a show of the rubes, with the rubes, and for the rubes.
Done by rubes.
So done by rubes, correct. Now, man, I can't remember my man's name, and I apologize if you're listening right now. But he was sitting next to me. We were chatting about the game during the course of the game. He had a Wolves jersey on and stuff like that. And by the way, like with the whiteout, okay?
Yeah.
Now, old people occasionally will spill stuff on their white shirts.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll forget to do the laundry over the week. So the Howl shirt, that's white, T-shirt, from Friday.
Coffee stains.
With a full intention to wear it Sunday. That wasn't in play. So I maybe I'm the only one here that's like lacking a John Krasinski, Don Johnson whiteout type full suit.
Yeah.
Don Johnson, he from what was that show? The old
Miami Vice.
Miami Vice. Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking Horatio K.
Was he Hobbs or I don't even know what the other one?
I think he was Dobbs. And then they asked him to pass, and the bet was settled. Amen, brother. But I don't know about you, but like my selection of whitewear.
No, it's not
outside of a V-neck T-shirt, which that's not.
No,
we ain't wearing that.
10 years ago, maybe.
10 years ago, maybe. But we ain't wearing the white V-neck and then like painting a howl on it or drawing howl on it with a Sharpie. I mean, am I the only? So like, I wore a white hammer-made button down last night that I had to roll the sleeves up past my elbow. It's cutting off fat people's circulation in his left arm. And
did you have a winter cap on?
No winter cap. No, that was Friday.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you must have known. That's why you asked. Because that's all I had white. I don't have an array of white clothing. Do you?
No.
So who does?
No, I have white undershirts and that's it.
Right.
Because of the spill factor.
Right.
And I got to be honest, little expanded over here. Could use a treadmill, maybe a diet of some sort.
Yeah.
White doesn't look good on me.
But you laid off the burgers at the free house. These mighty just letting it all hang out. But my man next to me, and it was awesome sitting next to you last night and chatting during the course of the game. That was super cool. But my man low-key admonished me a little bit because after watching, and this is just a metaphorical number, but hopefully the point gets across. It's after watching Jaden McDaniels miss maybe his 18th consecutive wide open three-pointer. Yeah. I'm so here come the Nuggets the other way. And of course they score and then there's a timeout. And I'm like, so sad. I'm so sick of watching Jaden McDaniels miss wide open corner threes. And my man's like, my man next to me, who just kind of put me into place with facts here. Kids were like, facts. He's like, well, I mean, after his effort on defense and fighting through all those picks and all the attention they pay to him on defense, I would imagine his legs are tired.
I always love that one.
He's right. It was a box. He put me in a coffin, like right in section 113. But still, he's right. He was right because it was at the end of a long shift, as they would say in hockey. And Jaden needed to sit for a little bit because he was tired. But as the point would go, it's like if I say, just leave Aaron Gordon open from three, and you will benefit, you will profit from that in the long run. Well, in the short run, that hasn't been the case. They're leaving McDaniels open for these threes. They're not hustling to close out on him or like jump in front of him or anything. And they're not going in and they're wasted trips with wide open threes from the corner. And I'm like frustrated, but it is it is fair to note that that the effort that Jaden McDaniels puts forth defensively, definitely it's got to be a tough role, man. I mean, he's a two-way guy, emphasis on the defensive side of the equation. So he's a blue liner who pinches and can score, state of hockey. But the scoring part is problematic as of now.
I have a hard time buying that though. I mean, it's just, I can't excuse him. Then if that's the case,
his legs ain't tired every missed three. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and he's 1 of 8 from deep in this series, and so and the fact is, right. I think in some ways because he took 3 last night and finally made one. It's almost like they've just decided that he's not. I don't know if he's not going to have it this series or what it is. Jaden McDaniels really for a large part of his career has been, I'll get you 8 of 10 one night, and then I'm going to go 0 of 8 the next night. I'm going to get to the line, force action, and have 7 free throws tonight. I'm going to go 0 of 1 and never even sniff a free throw in the next night. it is up and down with Jaden. It was up and down in the Sun series, and it's been all basically entirely down this series. Double figures last two, I know, but in the end, it's last night. I think he made an effort to get to the line early, hit a shot, and you're like, okay, well, Jaden feels like he's shaking it up a little bit and handling his business on the offensive side, and then it's nothing. So again, if Nikhil's going to go shoot the way he did last night, if you're not getting anything from Jaden, and Nas is an energy boost that goes in short spurts, and Kyle Anderson is just out there. I don't know what Kyle Anderson offered the team last night, and then if Cat's going to start slow, that's why I kind of went down the road with the offense, man. It's troubling to me.
Right.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, we don't have a 1A. I mean, we're not establishing a 1A the last two.
The last two.
So, but and now that's why if the Gordon piece is sustainable, we have no chance. If Aaron Gordon continues to, because by the way, Porter gets to score. And Porter Jr.
didn't have to last night, though.
Right. That's the problem. Porter Jr. wakes up and looks at his phone and, he sees things that he doesn't like involving those he loves. But once he gets past that, he scores from all over the court.
Yes.
And they're doing a really good job of Michael Porter Jr., or human nature is really, really, really winning with Michael Porter Jr. And
I feel for that guy,
and if it is, I'm not mad at him. I feel for him, too, with stuff that's happening around him. But to believe Porter Jr. is going to score 2 or 4 or 6 or 4 or whatever it was, no, because he's a breakout kind of guy who dunks on breaks, hits threes off the bounce. If Aaron Gordon sustains shooting the way he's shooting and hitting threes the way he's hitting them, well, then the Minnesota Timberwolves they're absolutely in the belly of the beast.
It's a season-ending montage on Friday.
Yeah, it'd be Brian McKnight.
Yeah, one last cry.
But I don't know if they showed it on TV, and quite honestly, I don't know if it had transpired at any point during the series, because I and most of us, if not all of us, weren't at games 1 and 2, so therefore you can't see it live. Did you see did they show on TV last night anything different with Finchie?
No.
Okay.
No, there wasn't much of a focus on him at all, actually.
I can't remember what happened. 3:30 left in the first half. Finchie standing up. Finchie stood up. He's leaning over the chairs.
Above average at that.
I mean, Finchie was standing up, holding onto the folding chair. Chris Finch tomorrow, 9 to noon and 9 a.m., by the way. Finchie tomorrow. Start the show with Fincho. Start the show with Fincho. That'll be tomorrow, 9 o'clock. But Finchie stood up, leaning forward, barking out something for defense or something like that. And I was just looking at that folding chair saying, please don't give way. Please don't let my man topple for a second time in the postseason. But Finchie was standing up last night on the bad leg.
Well, here's what we found out then. We knew we were wondering, or at least I was, what was it going to take to get Finch to not be able to help himself and freak out with the injured leg?
Yeah.
He's crawling over bench players, second row, wherever the hell he's at. What was it going to take for it? And we saw it.
Yeah.
The last two games, in the first halves of these games, the head coach does not care about perpetually hurting left knee.
No.
Finchie or right
was
knee,
in pain.
whichever one it is.
When Finchie stood up, Finchie was in pain.
And he didn't care.
No, he didn't care.
He had to get up. He had to share something, exchange some pleasantries with his guys. It did not matter.
If he yells at Mike Nori, and it's nothing, this is not a problem. It's loud, okay?
Yeah.
But, I've watched him the last two games, yell from his super special chair with his right leg fully extended, and he can't. It's costing the team, team probably stuck a good $15K because of the two seats they had to eliminate for Finchie's leg. But Finchie trying to get Mike Nori's attention sometimes is a game within the game. When Finchie stood up last night, I was like, hey, my man, hey, Finchie standing up. It's crazy. All right, we pause. And by the way, with the Wolves game tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock pregame, and the tip tap is somewhere around 9:30, 9:40, something like that. And beloved Maxwell has the pregame party. Maxwell Fuller, as in Froby Bryant, or Cornbread Frowell, or Fro Duncan. He's doing the pregame show at 8 o'clock tomorrow night on FM 100.3 KFAN, your cash giving leader.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword fun. The keyword is fun. Enter it, maybe win some cash. Fun at KFAN.com.